Hello everyone. Welcome to another one of our APPI Learn by Doing webinars. Today the original focus, which I'll start talking about first, is this concept of the universe of collective consciousness, which is just that. It's a model of really a theory of everything. And at our recent app conference, Tom talked about his theory of everything, Tom Campbell, and I would like to talk about this one, which in fact is very similar, but point out what I think is an important difference for setting up the appropriate mindset for doing ARV. So what we'll do is start out talking about the UCC, Universe of Collective Consciousness, and then we're going to do a prediction for an outcome a month in the future, and we'll do the RV session, we'll do the judging session, and then we'll have discussions about these sessions. You'll actually be able to send them to me, and we'll put them online so everybody can see them and we can discuss them, and that's always very educational. And during this segment, I'll get very specific in teaching the newbies how to, in fact, do this and connect it up with the mindset. So that's the plan for today, and of course we won't get feedback for a month on these predictions. Okay, I'm starting with this one from the conference with the idea of making it so plain to you that precognition and retro-causality are in fact real. At the conference, I want to turn off my camera. I think it's at the conference, we had 10 envelopes. We had someone choose that randomly, was not opened until after the remote viewing transcript was generated. So no one knew what was in those envelopes. This is one of actually many good examples of a transcript, and in this case we also, we always like to have a lot of fun, and we use Play-Doh for making physical models. So after this transcript and model was done, I just want you to totally understand this. It was only after this was done that the envelope was open and this picture was then shown to everybody, including putting it on the screen. Now, take a look at this. You have to admit this is right on. The person who...
Any of the words, Marty?
What's that?
Any of the words on it? Can you read any of the words that are on the...
Well, I see black, mosaic, man-made. Yeah, you can see it as well as I can. Now, this person did self-judging. I want you even now to notice he used a different color pencil and marked this happened to be photo B, so he put all these B's here. We'll be talking more detail about that. But then they did the judging. We then had the game that was associated with this coordinate, and there were two possible pictures, but obviously he ranked this one very high. On a 0 to 7 scale, he gave it a 6, and we'll be talking about that. And we got a hit. Now, then we did our feedback session. And see, this is where, and I'm starting right now, because we have to integrate into our reality the fact that this feedback session was connected with when he did this remote viewing session. How else could he do this well? Now you got to take that in deep. When you do it yourself, it goes in deep, but it can go in deep when you see somebody else like this, when you're absolutely convinced that it's not cheating. And we had a whole room of people, 60 plus, 70 people in the room when all of this happened, and they saw it. And so this feedback picture done during the feedback session caused the earlier transcript to be generated. That's why it's called retro-causality. We are able to influence things that happen earlier in our normal way of thinking about it. Now, this is the word entanglement, which says it's almost like it's outside of time because these things were entangled all the time. But now the words get kind of strange. But you just have to take in that the universe doesn't work the way we normally think of it in our day-to-day life. There's something non-physical possibly going on. At least time isn't moving in the normal forward way because you cannot get transcripts like that. So I said it, I've used a lot of words, but you got to get this deep in your gut that the feedback session can provide information for the remote for the remote viewing session. Just get that deep. Now, I've been working this for many, 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 many years, and you can't help me being a physicist trying to make sense out of this. And so this is the model which for me makes sense, fits the facts, and I want to share it with you. And it turns out Tom Campbell, who came up with his model independently, is very, very close to this, and I'm sure there are other models that are similar to this. People going back to the early days of quantum mechanics, when they were trying to figure out the strange phenomenon of non-locality, used words like consciousness is fundamental. They just didn't do fun. They were way too serious, okay? But it is fun. The fact that you can cause things to happen earlier. Okay, so let me tell you what this universe of collective consciousness model is all about. So the blue now represents everything consciousness touches in all space-time plus non-physical. Let's say a lot of people might use, and I'm prepared to use the word spiritual. Things like souls, things like ideas. You don't have to go to souls or anything like that, but there is a non-physical reality. Basically all that is. So you look around your room now, consciousness is going into you. You know this conscious moment. This is how you experience this conscious moment. That conscious moment is in here. All of your previous life conscious moments are in this universe of collective consciousness, this UCC. Also, all of your future conscious moments that you have not had thinking of this in a linear way, they are in here too. So in this physical life that you're living, past, present, and future conscious moments are here. But this is true of all sentient beings. Everything that experiences conscious moments, past, present, and future, they're all in here. ETs on other planets, they have conscious moments. Their conscious moments are in here too. This is everything consciousness touches in the broadest sense you can imagine. Now, this outer boundary, there isn't one. I have to draw a picture like this, but this is basically a circle without a boundary. And I want you to understand this, because if you were to imagine some idea, something that might be outside of this, as soon as it is in your consciousness, guess what? It's in this circle. So this is an interesting construct which has no boundaries. It cannot have boundaries. Inner boundaries, outer boundaries. There are no ideas of a boundary because there's no separation, right? Because anything you could think that might cause a separation is already in the circle by definition of what the circle is. Now, I find it very interesting that our physical universe has exactly the same characteristic. There are no boundaries in our physical universe. You cannot find an end. You cannot find a place where there's an outside and an inside. In fact, people used to argue that black holes were that way, and that's not true. It turns out even when a black hole sucks something up, it turns out it sends back signals. There are no separations. So physical, non-physical, right? We're including the non-physical ideas, whatever is non-physical. This really implies the ultimate in oneness, since everything is connected. There are no boundaries. And words like harmony, there are just no separations, you know. What is disharmony? It's basically separations. Harmony is connected. Okay, so this is the basic assumption that when I say consciousness is fundamental, I mean, it is so fundamental that you have this UCC kind of model of oneness and harmony and no boundaries. Now, we, of course, do separate things. You know, you've got this sense of you as being an individual. You have your sense being in the physical world now, wherever it is that you are physically. However, the basic UCC model says, yes, we can have things, but they have fuzzy boundaries because they are connected, and you know they're connected. I mean, this isn't like, you know, what's so interesting about all this, I'm not really telling you anything that if you just sort of think about it a little bit, you know is true. What you're seeing now is connected to lots of other stuff. But there's a fuzzy boundary, you know. Where do you start and do you think you end at your body even now? Well, what about all the radiation that's going out? You have a fuzzy boundary as soon as you try to define something as one separate thing, because there is nothing which is separate from everything else. Okay. So this is the fuzzy boundary. Now, interesting enough, starting this fundamental with consciousness is fundamental, notice this fuzzy boundary introduces uncertainty, which happens to be one of the most fundamental concepts in quantum mechanics. So we're now connecting with the physical world at the very, very basic level of our most fundamental models. So we've got uncertainty. The other thing we have is entanglement. Entanglement, since you're not separate, you are still entangled with the UCC, which basically entangles you with everything. So whether or not you're conscious of it, you are indeed still entangled with everything through the UCC, since the UCC has no boundaries. This is rather cool if you think about it, because we've got the most fundamental things happening as soon as you try to bring out a specific thing. And that thing could be anything. Okay? So all things are entangled via the UCC. Now the UCC is sort of my language because it allows me to connect up with consciousness as fundamental, right? So the universe of collective consciousness. But that's what I believe Ingo And others talk about when they mean the matrix, the most fundamental thing you can think of. The Akashic records, other people have used other kinds of words, but I believe we're all talking about the same thing. Now, what if things that you want to take out are events? Events are conscious moments spread out over physical time, what we experience as physical time. You're having a conscious moment now, but as I'm talking more and more, you're having more conscious moments with new words. If you look around, you have a conscious moment of a different place. Okay, so an event is a series of conscious moments. You go to an app event. When did that app event really start? It has a fuzzy boundary, but nevertheless you have a sense of when it started and when it ended, even though it's got a fuzzy boundary. Now, one of the cool things about our particular consciousness is that you can ignore events. You can decrease the entanglement with your consciousness. You see how those disappeared? Well, you know you do this all the time. Can you imagine if every one of your conscious moments included all of your previous ones and all of your future ones? That would be more than at least we as physical beings can happen. But one of the beautiful things about our physical being is we can get rid of many of these. So let's just imagine that we have two of these events, okay, and you certainly know you can increase entanglement. You have some events in your life, and I want these two events to be at different times. You have some events in your life that were super happy, super important. Notice that usually emotions are involved with that. Or a dazzling new idea came into your mind and it was just so unusual that you to this day remember it. The slightest trigger will bring that all back to you. Okay? So if this were you, say, now, and this was that past event, they're entangled. So classical memory is one type of entanglement. Well, let's just imagine an event like one we're about to do where we have a remote viewing session, okay? And imagine the other event is you in the future from when you do your remote viewing session are doing your feedback session. We're going to be doing that. We did 6 of those at the conference in Las Vegas. We got 3 hits, 1 miss, 2 passes. Over the long term, and many others has shown that we're getting results which are well above chance. This kind of entanglement happens, okay, through time. Entanglement. Well, guess what you can do? Your consciousness, it's like is creating a handshake. That's really another word for this entanglement with these two events sort of outside of time, and you can enhance that entanglement. Okay? You see how that arrow gets bigger? You can enhance this entanglement. Okay? And that's part of what we urge you to learn how to do this, but you're learning how to do this. I give you hints. I can tell you what I've learned about it. But ultimately, you're doing this because you're really doing it not in the physical learning plane, which comes from the UCC. You're doing this learning down in the UCC. And this was one of the most significant things, in my opinion, that Tom Campbell said with this theory of everything. All the work is really done down at the UCC level and then plays itself out in our physical world going through normal linear time, You know, we do live our physical lives in linear time. What's so magnificent is we are entangled with this UCC so we can get a perspective which looks like we're outside of time. Time was created in this UCC. The physical world of space-time is created in this UCC, and we have access to it in ways which seem impossible when you're totally focused in the physical world. Rather remarkable. Rather remarkable. Okay, let me say more. Even physicists, classical physicists, but they know they're really in the realm of philosophy. So this is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy that I'm now about to give you a quote from. And it comes from a section called Quantum Entanglement and Information. Notice we're really talking about information down at the UCC level, non-physical information. Entanglement can be measured, transformed, and purified. A pair of quantum systems in an entangled state can be used as a quantum information channel. That's the entanglement, a quantum information channel. The classical physics who study quantum mechanics, who do the experiments on it, who are endlessly thinking about it, and they're remaining in the physical world doing this, must talk about a quantum information channel because non-locality, the fact that information is instantly available from things which are very, very, very far away, that's called non-locality. They have to face up to that, and the way they use and the kind of words they use are quantum information channel. So such a thing exists, it can be measured, experimented on in the physical world. And they'll even go further and say this quantum information channel can be used to perform computational and cryptographic tasks that are impossible for classical systems. And right now, there are quantum computers out there that use all these theories. I mean, science in the physical world is moving ahead now very fast, and the information is coming, however, from the UCC. Okay, that is the model, and it connects up with quantum mechanics. The UCC approach is great. Let's now again and further in more detail connect it up with associative remote viewing. So what do we do in associative remote viewing? And this is for the newbies that are here. And a reminder, you know, you hear it and hopefully it makes more sense because you're doing it and it goes deeper and deeper in you and it helps you do it better next time. So this handshake, this entanglement is what ARV is all about. Now, it begins in linear time in our physical world with a very simple task. Describe and sketch your feedback target. It's as simple as that. And we give a coordinate with that because we want to do a lot of them and we want to separate them. Okay? At feedback time, you know, and I go into more details about it, but you want to know what you basically are doing at feedback time? You're describing and sketching your feedback target. The difference at this time is you know the truth. Now you're seeing the actual target which you were asked to describe here at the feedback. This is the truth. You know the truth. I mean, that's kind of cool. How often do you really know the truth? Here you know the truth. You're looking at the picture. In the example that I started it all, this guy was looking at the train. And guess what? Here is where you put a lot of energy. Here is where you can strengthen the entanglement knowing the truth. That's why I will say over and over to you, in a real sense, precognition begins here. See, that's what entanglement is all about. The word begins sort of has a cause and effect, and we usually think of beginning starting earlier in time. But we now know that entanglement means causality can go both ways. And this is where you put in a lot of energy, a lot of emotion. You light it up so that you can better entangle it, increase the entanglement with the remote viewing session. Okay? This is the analysis judging session, right? Remote viewing, analysis judging comes next, before the feedback. Now, why do we do that? Because in ARV, we're doing precognitive ARV. There's a sporting event, a political event, something going on in the future. So we want to judge our transcript against two possible outcomes. We do what's called binary ARV, yes-no kind of questions. Well, how do we do that? Well, we have two pictures, one for yes, one for no. We don't know the outcome. But at feedback time, you're always going to be shown the target that's associated with what actually happens. So one of these targets is associated, one of these possible targets, okay, so two are chosen. One is associated with yes, the other is associated with no. If yes is what occurs, you'll see the yes target, the target associated with yes. If no occurs, you'll see the no. You'll see the truth of the association. So then when you come in here and look at them, hey, you get a really, really good one. It's very easy for you to say, I'm predicting what's associated with that train. And you saw a really good example of that, and that's how you get a good hit. Okay, so that's ARV, and I'll probably, and I will tell you again it from a different perspective to try to illuminate this more. But I just told you everything you really need to know about ARV. It's actually conceptually very simple. Describe and set what you see during your feedback session. And during your feedback session, entangle it back with your remote viewing session, and then you do your judging here. So, starts here, down through your, what I call the subconscious. We don't know exactly what the subconscious is. We do know you got a lot of stuff below what you're experiencing in your conscious moment now. We call that the subconscious. It's your connection with a deeper part of yourself. We do this handshake, this entanglement with your subconscious again, because it's the subconscious that gives you what comes up to your consciousness in this kind of model. What enhances that handshake? Focused intention. You set your intention. You set your expectation. You get more and more comfortable that, yes, you can do this. This is the way the universe actually works. Precognition, entanglement, all that is real. And these emotions help. This is where bringing in the feelings of love doing this. Oh my God, I really love this target. At least I'm very interested in it. You know, you stay really positive. I think your subconscious likes to spend more time in a positive, loving type of state and the things associated with that. So that's where the emotions come in. And then, guess where the information for what we call it your sub, because it's closer to you. It's like the intermediary between the UCC, right? You never can get away from the UCC. The UCC is where your sub is able to pick up this information and connect it. So the handshake really goes through the UCC and your subconscious. That is the model of associative remote viewing. and much deeper than that, of course, because we're now talking about the way we believe the universe works. Come on, that's cool. You know, a model like this that, you know, seems to have sense. You can kind of get it. I think that's really cool. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this idea of entanglement, and I want to call it entanglement energy. You know, energy is a very, very general word. We have a very good idea, or a pretty good idea, of what that all means in the physical world. E equals mc squared is sort of the biggest bang way of thinking of that. But we understand potential energy. If you drop something from up high, it gains a lot of energy on the ground. We have a pretty good sense of energy. Understanding that is the basis of our physics. Even our conventional physics that got us to the moon was based on managing energy. Okay, entanglement energy. It's very close to something, and I want you to understand this because it gets into physics, but it's a binding energy. Notice you're binding your remote viewing session and your feedback session together. And you're doing that with intention, attention, expectation, your beliefs, your emotions. All of this stuff is what creates this binding energy. Even your thoughts. And unfortunately, negative thoughts are around. They cause a certain amount of binding energy. Surprises. All the kinds of things which your consciousness has affect the binding energy. But the more intense these things are, it seems logical that there would be more of that entanglement energy. Now, what is it like to try to make it more real? You know, I've given you what I believe is involved, but it turns out physics has this term binding energy, and it's actually the energy that holds the nucleus, the core of the molecules, the core of all the chemistry in our physical world. There's a nucleus of every atom, which is composed primarily of protons and neutrons and who knows what else is in there. But that's called the nucleus. That's the core, right? The word nuclear, the core. But what's interesting about that, it's equal to the mass defect of the nucleus. Now understand what the mass defect is. If I take all of those protons and I separate them out as far as I can, you know, I put one out 1,000 light years and the other one another 1,000 light years from that. I separate them so they're no longer interacting with each other. There's more mass in those than when we started. Now I bring them together and they're losing mass. This is all measured. And it's the loss of mass through E equals mc squared kind of concept that forms the binding energy. This is a physical concept in our physical world. Well, it's the same thing in the non-physical world. And it's kind of amazing that Abraham, of Abraham Hicks fame, The Secret fame, all of those kind of things, has said, every time you say, I appreciate, appreciation is another one of those non-physical words that, you know, is sort of a real positive one. You know, not too far from love, actually. Every time you say, I appreciate that, I really like that, I applaud that, I acknowledge the value in that. Every time you do that, you spend some of your energy. And it is the spending of energy that creates a vacuum, so to speak, or an attraction, so to speak, that draws more and more and more and more. this is the key to their law of attraction. Okay? And it really comes from spending energy. I mean, it was amazing when I came across this. Okay? Saying the same thing in the physical world. Same stuff going on. All the clues are actually in the physical world. And so once you get a sense of this, use it. Do it. Do it have the sense of this during your remote viewing session. Appreciate all of the reality of this, and that, my God, I can really receive information, okay, from the future. And then certainly at the feedback session, no matter what happens, have this appreciation. Now, so conscious is fundamental to precognition. I want to give you another perspective on the same thing here. The target is a photosite. This is like a precognitive telepathy thing, because here you are during your remote viewing session. Here you are in your future after the event. You're communicating with you, and you can think of it a lot like telepathy. Usually we think of telepathy as being communication with somebody else, okay, at the same time, but why not with yourself in the future? And it's precognitive, of course, because of that. And I want to do one other thing. This exact same concept can be directly used for health. I mean, that's how important this is. If you make your target a healthier you, when you see yourself being healthier, okay, this causal loop goes both ways. You acknowledge it. You appreciate it. You recognize that all of this is coming from the UCC and that you are a big part of that. One last quote, and this very interestingly comes from Skip Atwater. You know, here's our UCC. Imagine that being you, all of you, all of your conscious moments. That's the you. Here you are, you. You are connected to the UCC, but you have to have that fuzzy boundary. Okay? Here's Skip's quote. Remember, Skip was the head and he initiated the remote viewing Army unit. So just like those guys that were doing quantum mechanics, these had to think about all of this strange reality in our physical world. Skip sees all of this stuff, the remote viewing stuff, the precognitive stuff, everything associated with remote viewing. You can't but try to put it together. And this was one of what I thought was a remarkable quote from his book. Some say that we pass from spirit into the physical at birth, and conversely pass from the physical world into spirit at death. I say that we never pass from spirit. We are always connected to the UCC. Okay, I took like 45 minutes for this. I hope you sort of got it deeper than you ever got it before. And that's the point of these models. That's the point of Tom Campbell's model, is for you to get a sense that you are really connected to all that is and have access to it.
Marty, can I ask a question?
Sure.
It occurred to me while you were talking about Tom's stuff, is there any way that any of us could actually entangle with the choice of target, you know, feedback target? You know what I mean? Is there any way somehow we could influence which photograph is picked or which target is picked? The people that are actually going to do the session later, do they ever, I don't know, it just popped into my mind. I was wondering, with all this entanglement stuff, how are we actually entangled with the choice of the target, even though it's supposed to be random?
Well, I'm afraid you're right. There are no separations. We have lots and lots of targets to make it harder for you to know. Plus the specific target that's chosen is chosen randomly, but that's randomly in the linear time physical way of doing it. So one of the challenges is to not pay attention to that. Again, the idea of being able to forget. And all of that is in how you set your intention. So the answer to your question is yes, you are entangled with that whole process, but don't do that. Just like you're about to see after you do your remote viewing session, just like they did at the conference, you're going to see the two possible targets, but you don't want to be entangled with them. You want to look at them in the pure intellectual way, as much intellectually as you can, because I think that minimizes the kind of entanglement as opposed to emotions. But are they available to you at earlier times? Yes. And the training is to ignore what's not important for describing and sketching the feedback picture. So your thought is appropriate, and don't think it again if you can help it, and certainly don't intend to do looking at the target selection process. Let's go on to a new prediction, and this is going to be for a month or more. The tasking is describe and or sketch your future XXX target. Describe is a lot general word, but I like to specifically put in sketch, which is a subset of describe, because sketches, when they come to you, are so valuable because they're not intellectual. They somehow are not going through the intellect. They're going another way, which is more direct. We are involved with these weekly learn by doing sessions with what really is a very interesting kind of experiment, because in our normal app work, we do predictions which are a week long, and now we're doing predictions which are a month long. As far as I know, for a long series, no one's ever done a long series where we're going to get data and are getting data on month-long predictions. Now, this started with Hillary Clinton be the U.S. presidential election, and that was a no. And you can see a lot of them here. Will Trump be president on January 20th, 2018? People were saying, why don't you do that? You know, there are people saying who he's going to be impeached. Still that talk is going on, going to be assassinated, whatever. So we did that question. Just because APP, one of its missions is to educate society about all of this, also like to do ones which are involved with money, because money speaks in the stock market and financial. So a lot of these questions have to do with that. The total score so far is we have 9 hits, 5 misses, 4 passes, 64% hit rate, but we do not have enough yet for this to be significant. We're doing 1 a week. You know, we have 14 non-passes, but as time progresses, we're going to get to where we're statistically significant, and then we'll be able to share that. Now, the question for today is, again, staying with the financial, is will the Standard & Poor 500 index close under 2,400 a month from now, July 28th? So that's the question we're going to be doing, just to make that credible. And also I ask this question because if the answer is yes, you could buy options. You could buy what are called puts on that, because the price is now above that. Here was the price actually I think is early this morning or yesterday, 24.33. So what we have here are the prices over a year. You probably can't read it, but this was September 2016, December, March, June 1st, 2017. So from here to here is a 3-month period. Here is June. So since June, we've stayed in this range of 2450 to 2400. If you look back over a year, you can see there have been periods where it stays flat, but then it's going to break out of this 50-point range. This is 2400, this is 2450. So we asked, is it going to go below 2400 or not? Each of these are a daily range. The red means it opened at the top of where that red is, closed down at the bottom. The blue ones, guess what? They opened down here and closed at the top of the blue, and then there are little extensions above and below these that give the high of the day, which generally are higher than the close. You know, it usually oscillates and will go above and then come down a little bit. And when it gets down to low, it'll go below, like here is a tick mark a little bit below. So each one of these contains the open, the close, whether it was up or down, and then the high of the day and the low of the day. So this gives you a really good summary of what happened over the year. We're asking, will it be below 2400? You've seen this, and really start getting into the fact that you're communicating with yourself, what you're going to see in the future. In fact, here, 30 days in the future. And it's all about information. I came across and used this one for the spoon bending that we actually did, and we talked a lot about PK, macro psychokinesis and stuff like that. And here's a quote from The Matrix. This young kid was bending spoons. Do not try and bend the spoon with your mind. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. Then you'll see that it's not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself. Ultimate entanglement, in this case with the spoon, and that's what you're doing. You're entangling between your remote viewing session and your feedback session. Okay, we've talked about the cue, describe and or sketch your, and we're about to get this, what's called the coordinate, transcript reference number. It's a unique tag coordinate that's connected to, guess what? The feedback target. That's its purpose, is the feedback target, to encourage a unique entanglement with the feedback target associated with that coordinate. So at the remote viewing session, you see that. At the feedback target time, you see that. Now, we're doing something really rather remarkable here. This is real magic. Dean Radin talked about real magic. And I mean, this is sort of amazing, right? So start feeling happy now. Start getting into a happy place. Remember happy stuff that happened before. We're going to be doing this in a very purposeful fashion. There's your cue. Really set now the intention deep down, deep down. The feedback is the key. This is purposeful precognition. The target is what we call a photosite. So the target is a feedback photosite. What that means is when you're in your feedback session, you're just not looking at a picture. Your consciousness goes to that site right? There's a physical site involved. At the time the photo was taken, and picks up everything that can be verified from that photo. And you're allowed to make, I would say, solid inferences. For example, things like sound, those are easy to pick up, right? Directly from your conscience. No particular extension of is it really there or not. All of your senses are activated through the UCC and your subconscious coming up. So not only do you get the visual, you can get tastes. If the target happens to be, you know, a great big yummy chocolate cake, your senses will give you the taste of chocolate, okay? If it's a bunch of bees, and I've seen this, a person will put buzz, 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 B, Z, 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 Z all over his page because you can get the sounds. You get smells. You get, all of your senses are operating. You can get touch. If there's something really sharp there, at feedback time, you can imagine your hand going there and you can touch it, okay, and it'll feel sharp. So that's what a photosite is. Now, sometimes there's judgment. You might not, I don't know what a good example is. It'll come up. You might see a splash of water, but because of everything else that's in there, you know there's a big body of water. And if it's a clear inference, not just a vague one. In fact, if there's any question, if you ask yourself the question, I wonder if this is the kind of thing Marty's talking about where I can infer it, then don't do it. I mean, it's got to be clear. So that's part of the definition of photosite, because guess what? I only want you to describe what at judging time you can validate that you made the connection with the feedback, because that's your whole purpose, is to make connection with the feedback photosite in a way that the judge can see that clearly. The train is an excellent example of that, of course, but what happens if it's not quite that good? Okay, so your target is the feedback photosite, and you're going to go there with your consciousness here, light it up, and guess what? At remote viewing time, you're going to go to that same target with your consciousness. So again, the idea is easy, and really take it that way. You've got that capability, and you're going to get quiet, and you're going to generate a transcript. These are just examples. I've got 2 of them here. I put this up because I'm about to start here. You're about to start, and I wanted to give you this sense of, a lot of people start with an ideogram. Most people, after they do this for a while, are on a blank sheet of paper, but you use all of your senses to get information. Here was an example coordinate, not the one we're going to do today. And there's this thing called an ideogram, which just physically starts it off. Remember, you're using all your senses. This is a sensory process. And people like to start with an ideogram, gets things moving. Some people don't use an ideogram. Here's one without an ideogram. And you get usually a combination of words and sketches. Imagery comes up so you can sketch. Some people, though, only get words. Some people only get sketches. Whatever you get is just right for you, period. The kind of words you get are lower level words. You don't name things. That's like a high intellectual kind of activity when you name something. I mean, you don't have to know the name of the Eiffel Tower to get the dimensions of it. You know, big, open, pointed. There might be sounds around. Notice they have metallic under sounds. If you were to say metallic, it doesn't also mean sounds, right? It means a texture, and I don't know if they have metallic here. Even the exact category that Daz Smith put this under has vagaries in it, which when you judge is sometimes an issue. But when you said metallic, you will have a sense of what you meant. For the Eiffel Tower, you probably would mean it's a metallic structure. Another word that comes up very often is things like man-made. Okay, so you can describe the Eiffel Tower with lots of words. A kid can describe it with lots of words without knowing its name. That's what you want to do here. Okay, and you're looking at these words, and I'm happy to send this list to anybody who asks me. And then you get these emotional impacts from the sight. You know, it could be afraid, alert, frustrated, and these could be emotions at the site. There might be a frustrated person, a person that's trying to do something and just not doing it well. You might pick up his frustration. You could pick up all kinds of stuff, anything. You're connected to it all, anything consciousness touches. But use low-level words. If you wanted to do an hour or two session and you were trained the way the military guys were, you can get into naming. But we will call that analytical overlay because that's your intellect. The possible role of intention, attention, and expectation. Joe McMonagle, okay, the best, at least public remote viewer around for many, 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 many years. He goes back to the original unit, Army unit. He was 001 in that unit. And Ed May, who's probably the scientist that has spent more time on his career focused in remote viewing than any other scientist, at least I know about, where the focus has been things like remote viewing. These two guys have done more experiments together, certainly, than any other team I know. And here's what they concluded, so they're worth listening to. What is clear, at least to most of us on our long-established team, is that intention, attention, and expectation play a very important role in the success of both application, which is what we're doing, and research of remote viewing. Okay, intention, attention, expectation. They picked up the three most important words in their opinion. They wouldn't deny that belief systems and emotion and things like that are important as well. But intention, attention, and expectation. Remember the cue? This gets down so you almost don't have to say it out loud, though I'd like you to say it out loud. I mostly like you to say the coordinate out loud. Okay, so how do I start? Let's start. Already you should be setting your intention, but now you want to find out what the cue is that is associated with your feedback target. Well, this whole program we're using is the online program. Most of you are already in it. It's called Winning Entanglements, the WE protocol, and it's online. And for your newbies, if you're not in this, this is a good place to do it. We do one a week per group. You can be in multiple groups. It's all made as user-friendly as we know how, and it's all done through email, and everything is saved, including comments that you put in on our server. So let's do it. Let's get our coordinate. What I did earlier this morning was did a normal tasking, and depending on which one of the groups you're in, we're called the webinar workshop group. Each of you and the other groups, each of you would get an email just like this. I've set this up so the email comes to me, so I'm representing, if you will, each one of you here. And you can see it's got the webinar workshop. I put a comment of some sort. I put learn by doing here. And the event, I put in the specific event that we're predicting. Will the S&P 500 index close under 2,400 on July 28th? We have sports groups, the sport game would be here. We have financial groups, the specific financial will be there with a start time and when the transcripts are due. So here the start time of when the prediction is finalized is July 28th. Usually we put the beginning of the game here, but then also we say when the transcript is due. The transcripts are due today, so you might read that, and then you quickly go right here, and this is where you get the tasking. After, since this is for every individual person, I'm just trying to make this big enough so you can see it, you would put in your email address. Every person would get a unique target that isn't chosen. And this is just like we did where we chose envelopes but didn't open them until the transcript was done. That's what happens here. So all you do is, and this webinar workshop is already highlighted for you, we're going to do one coordinate aimed at this. Some people like to do two, gives them two chances of getting a great target, but we're going to do one here, and then as soon as I click here, okay, you get your coordinate, but the target is still not chosen. So let's get our coordinate. Okay, there it is. The coordinate is, and here's the cue again, describe and sketch your 902.204 feedback target. Right now, you see your intention is now getting stronger. Set your intention and say the coordinate out loud, because that just makes it clear that your intention is now strong. Use that. The remote viewers were told to actually say, as they're doing their transcripts, to say it out loud. So right now, say your coordinate out loud. You know to describe and sketch it. Say it out loud. 902.204. Notice this. Your voice is unique. The way it vibrates through your body, okay, and the sensory way is unique. Goes down through the sub into the UCC, and you're connecting with your feedback target. What we're going to do now is do the transcript, and then I'm going to show you. You'll put it in here through your own computer or smartphone, and then when we click browse, then we'll go into the next phase. But for now, we're going to do the remote viewing. So let me get back to the PowerPoint. So that's what I did. You click on the link which was there, and you put in your email address. Very simple. This is now, some people have their own that they make, or a blank sheet of paper, but on top of a paper or a sheet like this, put your coordinate, right, which we just had. In fact, why doesn't somebody put it in the chat box? Because I can get it again, no problem. Here it is here. You should be putting that at the top of your transcript. That's the target association that you'll see at feedback time, and that you are now going to describe and or sketch. Also put your name, today's date, June 28th, and put the time, because you're going to keep this transcript for a month from now when you do your feedback session. Okay, so I've talked about the coordinate ideogram. You might want to start it here. Here are all the kind of sensories that you could get: temperatures, dynamic sounds, dimensions, geometry. Put your sketches and stuff in here. Gestalts are when you see that feedback picture. It's going to be one big picture thing that comes into you. You know, if it's dominated by a huge building, if it's dominated by water with a big cruise liner in it. Remember, none of us know what the picture is now, so I'm making this stuff up. That's the kinds of things that you would put here. And often they're words, but they might even be a big picture sketch of some sort. That kind of stuff comes in first. And when you think the intellect gets involved, you put these on the right. Oh, you get reds. Red comes into you as either a visual flash or the word red comes up. Ooh, round. Ooh, this is real roundish. And then some, oh, it must be a tomato. You don't know that. And you get the sense that that was the intellect putting those two things together. Well, you know what? It might be a basketball. There are a lot of red round things. And so then you put them on the right here, and I also put trash there because it gets it out of your flow, allows you to then quiet up again a little bit and be open to getting more information. That's all there is. So you just listen quietly to your sub and take what you get and put it down. The intellect part of this is I'm sorry, the intellect part of this is not important. What is important is opening yourself up to get your intuition, your subconscious working. And what's called cool down is a transition from the intellect to this open state where you're just receiving information. You're like witnessing information from the UCC, from the feedback target, through your subconscious. And Joe McMonagle said that was 75% of the discipline, opening yourself up, setting that intention to be open, expecting to get that information, and paying attention to your sub. So now we want to get into a mode where we're 90% from the sub, you know, rough numbers. For all I know, it's 99%. There's no way to really evaluate it. But obviously, you leave enough of the intellect around so that you can put what you witness onto your sheet. So let's do it. I have now a HemiSync cool down. I think it will play here. It's 10 minutes long, so I'm going to give you 10 minutes. Historically, most people like to use roughly half of their time for cool down and half for their session. I will actually come on at 5 minutes and 1 minute. And at 1 minute, you still might get quiet and go down and get another perception or two. So that's the idea. Those of you who want to listen to this, some of you I know have probably already started. Let me see. Okay, I don't have the link here. So what I'm going to do now is start this. I hope you can hear it. We did some of them with the HemiSync. We did most of them just being quiet. Some people have their own background music. So I'm going to begin. Get quiet, set your intention, maybe take a few deep breaths, let the day-to-day stuff go, and I'm starting this now. 1 minute left. Okay, come on back to your normal waking state. Stretch a little. And now we go into linear time mode, and we'll do analysis judging. But before that, I noticed some stuff in the chat box. And John is right. Farsight and others do remote viewing a month out, how they judge their hit and misses and all that is rather complicated and controversial. As far as I know, we're the only ones doing regular ARV, Associative Remote Viewing, where the outcome is always very clear. You know, the Standard & Poor's Index question we ask will be a clear yes or no. And we're also keeping statistics, because it's clear, which will eventually prove whether or not there's any decline in doing ARV over a month versus say over a week. So that's what makes us unique there. Now the ideogram is, for many people, very useful. I just don't say too much about it because it's also has many different interpretations and it just takes too much time. I would very much like John or somebody else to actually give, maybe as the opening educational portion of one of these sessions, talk about ideogram. John, that's a hint, hint, hint for you. It would be really good for you to talk about ideograms. So, you know, please consider that. Okay, now you've done your session. I'd like you to wait before you upload until after you finished your judging. Okay, so I just read the rest of the video. So here we are in the judging portion now, and I want to talk about how I'd like you to do. It's not just judging, it's analysis of judging. And I really want you to understand it and do it for these in this fashion. And everybody tends to modify things as time goes on when they do it on their own, you know, for the weekly predictions. But for now, I would like you to do it this way. So we need to come up with a yes, no. And remember, we're going to have two possible targets. I'm going to show you how to get those. First, in some ways, it's easier to understand how not to do it. And here's a skeptic that expects you to do it in this fashion. So he's asking a question. It's in an envelope. Okay, so what's in the envelope? And our psychic, our ARVer, if you will, says it's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. And of course, the skeptic, who does not understand how precognition works, says, nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing, right, versus a charcoal drawing of a beaver versus a woodchuck eating a tangerine versus an orange. So with some exceptions, and I have to say the train was one of those, when we do judging and we judge them very high, like a 6 or a 7, they indeed are that good. But most of the time, they're analogy-like. They are similar to what is actually in the drawing. And this is where the analysis judging comes in, where you say, you know what, I think that was psychic information versus some other kind of information. So we use analogies, we use metaphors. Oh yeah, I can see where my subconscious might have done that because it's similar to, it resembles that. So judgment is involved even in the analysis stage before you do the final judging. Now here's an example from an earlier one which shows you the technique I would like you to use. This person had an ideogram, so this was their ideogram around a slope, and that got them started and also maybe led to some of their words and things here. But what was added after the remote viewing session, and when I show you the two choices, that's what I'm going to want you to do. Notice the red A's and in this case green Bs. What I actually usually recommend is a different color pen. At the conference we used red. I gave people different color pens. And in red, they would just simply write A or B. You don't have to use a different color because it's pretty clear. So notice I didn't even show you the pictures. What I'm trying to show you is the style. So to them, texture rippled matched photosite B. And that's how I'm going to show them to you with an A and a B. Gray, green, warm were A's. Here, notice, okay, most of these were A's. They then, with this confidence ranking system we'll be talking about shortly, gave an A of a 5 and a B of a 1, a confidence ranking of 5 or a B of 1. What this person didn't do, which I would like you to do, is notice this person had A's and B's. Also, in this case, there was an A and a B. Sometimes the sketch or word can go for A and B. Gee, you know what? It matches this one well, it matches that one well. And you have to be as unbiased as possible. That's the analysis part, okay? You have to be unbiased. Don't get drawn because you had, you know, a bunch of A's first. Don't get drawn there first. So you can do an A and B and you can leave some blank. Then what this person did is actually counted up the A's, counted up the B's, you know, so that helps with the analysis. But then, you know, this is sort of be implies, but it doesn't. You now do analysis, and I'm going to show you the TARG scale next, which gives you the confidence ranking based on Russell's TARG's work between 0 and 7. The other thing I want to point out where, see, it's not just proportional to this ratio, is because sometimes you get something which is really strong and you should mark it kind of as a big B. At least that's what I do. These B's were all the same size. I remember when the person did this, this was worth a big B, you know, or a double B, but I would just make it a big B so that when you do your judgment, you would know that not only did you get more B's, but some of them had a more entanglement in your mind as the analysis judge. So this is this TARG confidence ranking scale, which goes from 0 up to 7. 0 is no correspondence, which actually turns out to be hard. There's usually something in there. But little correspondence, you know, it's just a little. Maybe you got one color out of 10 or 15 elements that came to you either in sketch form, and sketches usually have multiple elements in them, you know, unless it's just a circle or a square or something. Sketches often have multiple things in them. A 2 is sort of where it's chance. You know, just by chance you might get a little something, and your sense is, you know, I really didn't make psychic contact. But yeah, I got some matches. That's a 2. A 3 is, yes, I did get psychic contact with some correct. You know, I've got a lot of incorrect as well. But I do feel I made psychic contact. I made contact with the target. I'm going to call that a 3. So that's right on the boundary. A 4 is good correspondence now. Now I feel I really did entangle with the feedback target. And I had several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect. There's still some incorrect. We use 3.5 to say I'm over that initial boundary, which is fuzzy. Okay, so it's a type of fuzzy boundary as well. But now I feel enough confidence that I put a few bucks on it in the wagering terminology. Though you should know a lot of people never wager. They just really get into doing this and learning about their own communication channel. But that's what a 3.5 is. A 4 now you feel, you know, you feel really confident. A 5 you feel really, really, really confident because the words Russ Targ used here is good correspondence again, but now with unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. sometimes I see more and more people are saying, well, you know, it's maybe a combination of these elements that really uniquely point to this target, but it was strong, I felt them, you know, it just looks really strong. Or sometimes there's a picture of a train that would certainly get you up to the fine level, but what if you only got a piece of the train, the cow plow below or something, and you drew that reasonably well? You know, that would be unambiguous and unique to a train picture, okay? But there'd be some incorrect information here as well. Now 6 and 7 get to where the intellect has now come in. You wrote it in AOL, and the rule about AOL is often they're not correct, but sometimes they are. And if they are, if for example you name the function of the target, that's pretty high level. That gets you up, you know, to a 6. And sometimes you name the target directly. You say Eiffel Tower. So here you might say tourist attraction. Those are really good. That gets you up to a 6 or 7. But you also have to be, you know, pretty much at the level of 5 as well in addition to those. But that certainly helps get you up to a 5. Okay, let's now do it. One other rule, I call it the 5-second rule. It comes up very often in judging, sometimes in the other ones as well. The 5-second rule goes way back in time. I used to use it for my grandkids. My kids I do use it for my grandkids. I used to use it for my kids. They use it for their kids. And it started with food. You drop something on the ground. Hey, if you can pick it up with 5 minutes, the germs didn't get to it. That's the 5-second rule here. We use it for feedback, for judging, for everything that has to do with this business to get us back into a positive mindset. You know, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade out of it. Here I said return to the feedback target, but you know, you won't know that here. I should have said any ARV thing. This comes from another slide, unfortunately. But you get the point. The point is we're about to go into the judging session. When negative thoughts come up, oh my God, how come I got this garbage? It doesn't match either one of them. Leave that thought, leave that feeling, and immediately get back into a positive. I can't believe I'm really doing judging. I did get some matches. I'm really doing ARV. Just turn it into something positive. Now, how do you get those two possible targets? Okay, guess what? We go back now to where we were, which is here. You've generated your transcript. What you would have to do now is bring this into your computer. You have a transcript. Almost all of us have either smartphones or scanners. One way or another, you get it into your computer, and then you browse your computer. You might have put it in documents. You might have put it someplace else. You know where you put it. What I'm doing, since I don't do sessions here, I make a dummy one just to get through this state. What you would do during your normal remote viewing is put it in here. It will show up here. And now you click the browse button. And now your 2 pictures will be chosen. It's true precognition. So you browse, put it in here, and then I'll click submit. There you go. These are the 2 pictures. I'm going to get this on board with the TARG. So let me bring the TARG up, which I need to get from someplace else. But some of you can already start your judging, of course. This here. Using that A-B approach, this is photo site A, this is photo site B. So with a red pen or something like that, mark anything that's marks the A here and the B here. Oh, and I bet some of you are saying, oh boy, look at that. There's structures on both of these. And if you got structure, you might mark both, but they're certainly different in so many other respects. And that's what you're looking at to come up with the analysis and judging. Which one of these was the feedback target that you connected with? Okay, it looks like, forgive me for a minute. Oh, what did I do? What did I do here? Right. I'm just trying to get the TARG scale here so I can put it up for you. Sorry, this is taking so long. Okay. So there's the TARG scale. I need to go forward here, I think, or do I go back? Well, and this is good for you to know. If you lose it and go back, or if you want to look at it and then come back another time, you'll always get the same pictures. This is reasonably robust. 902.204. Okay, so there you are. So now you've got them both. Mark your A and B's. And then after you do that, I would like you to email Okay, that's good. Thank you, John. And it's
Marty, can you make them a little bit bigger?
Yes, I can. How about like that? And let me put the email address here. And take your time. This is an important thing. And if you have questions, if there's something you don't want to do, raise it because you're going to. This is analysis judging. Our goal eventually, as we get better and better about this, as each of us individually get better and better, is to make the judging easy. But for most of us, most of the time, there is analysis and judging involved. And that's what you need to do. And the more you do it, and then you see during feedback time what you got, what you didn't got, what you forgot to match. Oh, I didn't realize my subconscious was doing that. You're going to say that. Every single one of us has gone through that. And at feedback time is one of the times you learn how to do judging better and better. And remember, you're totally, at feedback time, focused into the real one, the actual target. But now you want to look and see how your subconscious might have communicated with you, and more so with one versus the other. So that's your judging. You know what? Since this is this small, I bet I can make it even a little bigger. Let's go to there. Okay, so do take your time when you feel you're done, and please look it over a second time, going over each element individually. Some people actually go over every element for the first picture and then every element again for the second picture. Everybody comes up with their own style. I personally look at each word, knowing it might have multiple interpretations, but then mark either an A, a B, an AB, or, it doesn't match either. But it's very clear to do it unbiasedly. Each element gets done unbiasedly versus both pictures. Here, I'll bring this over here so I can see who is doing that. This is not. Okay. Okay, now what I'd like you to do once you get to where you have a confidence ranking, and this caused some confusion, but I don't want it to cause confusion this time. So in the chat box, there's a way of setting your confidence rankings to me personally. Yeah, you did it to the chat box, Don, and that's okay because you've been here before and that was a natural. But if you look at the bottom of the chat box, there's something that says right. So everybody send a picture and send it to my email address, which I put in the chat box. But I also want you to give me the confidence rankings to me alone. And under where it says right now it defaults to everyone, right, just do it to the one that says to presenter. I don't even know what it says. I see John, it says to presenter, to Marty. There you go. So send it to presenter, to me, to Marty. It'll have some statement like that. It says to presenter, John said. Thank you. And then I'm making a table of all of those, which we will look at the end to make the group prediction, which is what actually goes into no problem. You didn't know, Donna. Okay, excellent. So now let me open up this, which I'll bring over here. Because what I'm making are group predictions. And let me get that going. Over here. Delete. Okay. Okay, so Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Mo asks, do we need to send it an email? Here you do, though I think Mo left. Here you do during the regular way. When you hit submit, it goes up automatically. The submit button for the transcripts. Okay, so let me now, I've got that going pretty well. Okay, very good. So I have sessions here. Let's open those up. One of them. Okay, so here is John's. So let's look at that. And John, wait, let me close. In fact, I could get rid of that. Here you are. Okay, John, why don't you turn on your mic? And, oh, good, most that one. Turn on your mic and tell us, I see perfect, you put your A's and B's here, and, you know, tell us the logic and what happened.
Okay, so I got a bio element on the ideogram, and it's hard to see one, but you know somebody's in those cars, so I kind of accepted that as
Right.
a B because it's hard to see from
right.
A.
No, right, but that goes to where it doesn't take much of a stretch. That's a 99% for sure. There are 3 cars there moving. Okay.
So the way I set up this sheet is I use signal line data in the middle. So I usually go through the lower level stuff on the left side first, and then I start filling in the middle as it progresses and it gets more complex, you know. So colors, I think I got the same colors for both targets because I got blue sky, you know, like blue, white, and then for sounds I got persistent, sort of like, I was thinking like a waterfall would make a persistent sound, but it might have been the traffic sound, you know, just and then I got a horizontal dimension, which I scored as a B because photosite A to me is clearly vertical. And then I come over to the middle and wrote down bio, and then there's the motion. It's open. It's open on both, and outdoor on both. And then here's something interesting that I do, sort of like a nag, but it's during the session. I ask myself, what is one of the main attractors? This is beyond Gestalt. What's one of the main attractors for this photo? And then I do another ideogram and then describe that. And I got the main attractor is actually a man-made object. And then those little L shapes that are below that are subset data of the main attractor. So it's something for a bio to use. It's not. So it's a functional item, accessory, functional. It's used to do something. Holds, uses sport, action, motion. And then we started getting low on time, so I went and did the session summary. And I didn't have a lot of site contact on this because I usually get more data. So I would have normally either taken a break or spent more time on it, probably a break and then come back. But for this, I just put minimal site contact, and it seems to be a bio with a man-made object as the attractor, and the man-made object is functional for the bio. And that's
okay, that's excellent. And I want to point out, and I'm going to use the 5-second rule now, that these do have a lot more in common than I like to see. You know, we've got 800 prepared ones which made different. And these have a lot of differences, but the blue and white, as he pointed out, they both have that. I might even say there are horizontal lines here, but this clearly is dominated by it. But scratch all that. It doesn't matter. Your subconscious, your connection with the UCC is such that you can always put enough additional stuff to make it clear. And here, motion, see, I would have put under motion a big B down here. And bio uses big B here. Now, that's just me. Everybody does it their own way. And I'm sure that when John gave it a 4, he was aware of that, even though he didn't mark it big B, that it was that kind of stuff that distinguished it and gave it to be a 4. Thank you, John.
Yeah, there's so many common elements that I didn't want them to be too far apart in the score. And if I was gonna, just to reiterate that one thing, I found that during the session, if you prompt yourself to describe the main attractor, it can really help you differentiate between targets that are similar.
Yep.
So that's it.
And let me say, it could allow you not only to separate two that might be similar in other ways. By doing that, I think there's a sub-intention, which is make that man attractor that I'm drawn to something which in fact is significantly different than the other. You see what I'm saying? In other words, you can intend that with your sub. Hey, sub, give me that thing which will make it really very different. So there won't be any real similarity between the words and sketches I put down. And you could just have that in you. Okay, thank you, John. So close that, and let me bring up the next one, which was, okay. Oh, I have it here. He tried, but I don't see a message. Are you still here? The cards for me. Moy, I don't know how you pronounce your name. And okay, wait, I can see if you're still here or not. Oh, you are here. Good.
Here.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get the picture, but maybe you can just sort of tell us about it.
What I saw is a white airplane flying in sky. So, and it has, I saw repeated hollow tubes of white color, I think, which resembles the windows of the building. I saw many hollow white tubes.
Yes. Okay.
So B, I think.
So you did. Let me see.
And the texture I got was smooth, like those of the cars. I found the texture to be smooth.
Okay. I didn't see you in the section, so tell me what you would give as a numbers. You think B. How high do you think? And how high do you think the B ranking should be?
I think it's B only. For B, it's 5-0. For B, 5, and for A, 0.
Okay, so yours was good enough that you felt you had unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. Okay, so I will give that one a 5. And then the A, what do you think for the A?
A, only the feeling of air matches with the A. Means I felt quite amount of air, as if I'm moving in air.
Okay.
So only that sense I can give to the A, B. And otherwise everything matches with A.
Okay, so it would be low, but I want you to just force yourself to make a judgment. Is it a 2? Is it a 1? Is it a 3? 2 sounds right to me.
I will. No, below 2 would be okay. Because I wanted, only one because I felt the air, because of the sense of air. One.
Thank you very much. That sounded just right to me. And period. So I thank you for that. I'm sorry we didn't get to see a picture, but I noticed your statement. In the regular way, when you do it for yourself in one of our groups, when you upload it to the computer and hit submit, that's all you have to do. You won't email me. You won't have to do any of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay, I was not knowing this. I just emailed because I saw email in the chat box.
yes,
So
and
I emailed.
that's fine. You know, that's why we're here. We're teaching newbies just like you. So thank you. That was very, very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get
Yeah, thank you.
another email one here. Okay. So I've got, oh, let's do Donna. Okay, you gave me two, Donna. Are they the same?
Yeah, they're the same, but I don't think the photo
No.
got
Right. Yeah, the photo
sent on
wasn't in the first one. So let me do you here. Yep, there you are. Okay. And here. Okay, excellent. Take us through this.
Good morning, everyone. So, so when I started out, the top that says a housing place was kind of my gestalt. That's what I came up with first thing. And the colors gray and purple, which can go either way, sort of like we talked about. The pictures kind of had similar colors. However, below the housing place, I saw the multiple lines that are on the building.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll see that right below the beam kind of structure that said housing place. And then also what came to me on shapes was a corner right away. I saw a corner. So obviously the building's on kind of the corner of the street there. People are turning.
Wow.
And the right angles. So then I felt the smooth metal of the cars, totally felt that. And the spinning of the wheels, I almost wrote wheel after spinning, but I didn't because it was more of a noun. Then, of course, I felt like we were outside, which both pictures are outside. And I also had this weird feeling that people were being tasked to do something. I don't know. Maybe they're all driving around working today. I don't know. But I also had the distinct impression that people were being moved, that it was something that moved people, and that it was warm, maybe even starting to get hot, and that for some reason it felt like things were moving to the east. But parked cars was definitely in my mind. At the bottom, you'll see that. Feeling kind of tense and alert, so maybe that's how people were feeling when they were driving because it looks kind of busy. And then again, I was feeling like it was a place where machines might be stored. So it definitely resonated with me on B, but if you look at the sketches in the middle, I gave them A because I kept seeing this upside down kind of cone shape. There is a little bit of white up there on top of the hill, where you'll see I have the little square with the white there. Don't know why I even put that there, but it felt like I should, so it kind of intermingled with that A photo. But definitely pretty ambiguous for those parts, and the B just was, I felt right on with what I did. Yeah.
And then you gave an A of 2 and a B of 5. That's excellent. You know, if I felt it was different, I would tell you. And I should say that when independent people do judging of the same transcript against the same two, they differ by 1. You know, so you put a 4 here, you know, couldn't disagree. I certainly can't disagree with a 5. That looks really good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Marty.
Okay. Let me get the next one, which was Lynn. And okay, here we go. So let's see if I can bring this over here. Bring this up here. I find I'm actually getting a little better with this over time. Oops, this is a little big. Let's see if I, there we go. Okay, Lynn.
Okay, well, I gave B a 3 and A a 2.5. A lot of the sensations and impressions I got were like, for A, were like open air, very spacious, dry, airy, brightly lit, sunshine. And then for B, though, the pictures, one of the first pictures I got was that the big B under shapes, it was like a perspective. I was trying to draw like a perspective where it was like rectangular and it was going in the distance. Yeah, and then it came again. And also the two circles, that was one of the first things I got too. And it was like, that I kind of think maybe a car in front of another car.
Or the wheels.
Or the wheels, yeah. And then the other thing I got later on was that globular thing. And I'm thinking now, when I got it, it reminded me of like that Fisher-Price children's toy that's like, has all these different colorful circles that you stack up. But
oh, sure, on a vertical, long vertical thing.
Yeah, so that again, but the term globular, I'm thinking if I had to describe a car, it would be globular, but that could also be for A, but it didn't really because it had smooth concentric circles. So anyway, I'm not sure, yeah.
Oh, you put that next to the smooth. I was just like, in other words, when you got this, you also got smooth.
Smooth was in my textures, but yeah, when you know, like you get impressions and then I think my mind just grasps for something that's similar. Yeah, so.
Okay, well, if it was your intellect, that's one thing. If you see, if it came up at the same time, you know, if the circular things came up at the same time, it's different than if it came up separately. That's all I'm saying, because you didn't get rough, you got smooth. There's nothing here that's smooth.
Right,
so we'd almost distinguish it here. That could
that's
be
true.
Stacked tires.
Yeah.
But you didn't mark it as either, which I would agree with. You know, it's vague enough. If they're vague, so vague, then it's neither.
Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah.
Okay, and you gave yourself low scores, a little more on B. I'm just trying to see. And others of you should do that too, because if you see stuff that she didn't, it's always good to point that out. Yeah, they're both, you see, like brightly lit, you could have put A and B. It's not distinguished, but you can see, it wouldn't have changed anything, but you know, when you judge, you want to judge just as honestly and thoroughly as you can. Okay, now we get, and this is with the best viewers, roughly, just roughly, passes about 1/3 of the time. Some people less, some people more. So you should just feel really good that you're doing this and don't feel bad at all about the passing, okay?
Okay.
And thank you very much. I love the way you mix things together, and your judging was just right as far as I'm concerned. Okay. How do you, well, we're going to do Evelyn, and then I see Mao is there. We'll get to see her transcript. But first, let's do Evelyn. And okay, so there you are. And here. Okay, I don't see your confidence rankings. It is, oh yeah, there we are. Sorry. Okay, even before you start, and I noticed that in the matrix, most of the time we'll get, when we do group things like this, and when we do the weeklies, even though the pictures are all different, we get some good scores on A and some good scores on B. I don't know what there is in the UCC and people's subconscious minds, but that happens. Okay, Evelyn, why don't you tell us, you know, describe how you came to that conclusion.
Okay, the grading is in blue pen, so the black pen is what I sketched. Right. And the first thing I saw was that thing marked A that looks like a roof or whatever, and my thought was it was a possibly a tree. So I wrote down tree over in the AOLs, but I wouldn't let myself think of it as a tree. It was just
Good
kind
for
of
you.
like a tree-like shape. And looking at that picture, I think I actually didn't draw it quite right, because I think I was seeing that tree that's up on top of that mountain. On the left of, it looks like a building up there, I think.
There's a building, and I can see it looks like a rectangular tree, you're saying.
Right, and I think that's what I was seeing to start with. And then I didn't get much, and it was almost like nothing for a little bit. So then I went and thought, okay, so then I did the ideogram. And I knew when I did that ideogram that it was probably a landscape. And I didn't actually put the gestalt in until after you called time, is when I went up there and wrote that word vast. So I did not have that concept to start with, but I kind of thought from that ideogram that it was going to be a landscape of some kind. And then the next thing I kept seeing is this yellow shape off to the left, but I didn't draw it till way down on the page, but I actually saw it right away. And it's that yellow shape on the side of that rock, that kind of oddball shape, and it kept changing shapes, so I never did get a clear view of what the shape of it is. But where I wrote that down there with the A and the yellow, that's what I was seeing, was that bright color on the side of the rock. Yeah.
Oh,
yellowish.
Here?
Oh, hey, that looks good, nice and big. I like that. No, on the left side.
Oh, left side.
Yeah, that kind of yellowish color, and it was a nebulous shape, and I never did get the shape.
Okay. You saw that as yellow.
I saw that right after I saw the tree, and I called it yellow. And then I didn't draw that because it just seemed like it wasn't anything. And then I kept seeing it, so I finally drew it. And then I got the sideways, I got the something curved with those lines, and it was, I wrote something curved, and I was, almost like a what do you call it, a culvert or something. And if you look at that sideways, that could be the front of that rock, kind of a curved with the lines and stuff. And so I think that's what that was, although I did give it a small b for possibly being a car fender.
I love it. And several people, you know how I make a big capital B? Some people will go for small b for smaller. That's really good, Evelyn. Thank you for showing everybody that.
And the same with the over to the, you made it big and missed that left side. There's like a volcano type shape there on the far left. If you make it a little smaller, we can see it, or else it's just off the edge of my, it's off the edge of my thing right now, but that's it. The one on the far left there that's kind of like a volcano shape. I knew I wouldn't let myself call it a volcano, so I didn't write that down, but that's what I was trying to draw on the final drawing. And and in that other picture, if you look at the picture with the cars, on the far left of the top of that building, there is a shape similar. That's kind of like a volcano shape. So I gave that a small b and a small b to the curved thing for the fender. But everything else was an A, so other than the blue was in both. And so I pretty much didn't have much impression that matched those neat 1950 cars. If I'd have known there was 1950 cars, I would have drawn them, because we had a car like that, and I love those old cars.
Okay, very good. This is also interesting too, because we all get a better sense. As a group judge, I just get to see the numbers. I get to look at the things, but I don't get a lot of the words that you've added, which gives a sense of confidence. And so your 5, you certainly have all the reasons to give it a 5, and it made good sense. And I don't see, the only thing, I'm saying this, I don't know if it's right or wrong, this could be wheels going around and around and around and around. Again, I'm just looking at it as trying to be an independent judge, but I don't think that would change what you did. You might give it a small b there or something, because it's stretching a little bit.
Well, it could
Okay.
be the brightness of the building too, the white, and then the next layer is darker. But
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you know, it could be
Both.
that too.
These are the thoughts that come in, and then as an analyst judge, you need to evaluate them, knowing yourself and knowing the way you communicate. So Evelyn, thank you very much for that one.
In the distance on that vast one,
Mm-hmm.
the rock in the distance there on the right hand side is a line that's either a road or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of thought that's what it was I was trying to draw, that white line, and then kind of grass or something above it at the center of the rock there.
Yeah, but also let me say, now that I'm looking at the clouds, these could be around and around and around and around and around. So in fact, I'll take back what I said. See, judging, I'm just telling you, it's challenging. I would now have marked that round and around and around as an A and a B. So again, I'm just sharing my thoughts, which are coming from my subconscious, but that was very good. Okay, let's go to, now it looks like, oh, you still didn't get the picture in. Okay. Now let me bring over the group summary, which I have to do. First I have to make it smaller, and I'll bring it over here. And I always do this on this sheet and change it every time. Okay, so first of all, let's make sure I've done this accurately. So make sure yours is correct. And then everybody has a different approach. What I do is mark the ones over 3, even 3.5, because it's what I call the strongest ones that me as group manager, this is my group manager approach. We have other group managers that do it differently. The most important thing is what you did and how you feel comfortable. And when we do things which are wagerable, for sure, like when we do sports over and under or financials up and down, I think it is more important to invest / wager in your way if you feel comfortable. You know, so even though there's only one over here that is yellow and there are 3 over here, I would think Evelyn should wager in her direction. And at the conference, you know, I really urged everybody to do that, and they did. And I think it just, I mean, you want to show trust in your communication channel, knowing you can improve it. But you want to show it, I'm going to go along with you. So that's the logic. Now, in terms of the group prediction, I think it's pretty clear. Let me put this here, that I will go with B. So group prediction, photo site, B. Now notice I don't even know what that is yet. We really try to keep everything for blind as long as possible. But I'm going to make the prediction for photo site B based on 3 versus 1 that are good. And I mean, so as a group manager, in this case, it's simple, relatively simple. Sometimes as a group manager, let's say there've been 3 and 2, I might go back and see if there was one that I felt was particularly strong, even on this side, that I felt maybe it was a 5 and a 4, and I felt, gee, you know, the 5 should really be a 6, and the 4 should really be a 5, and maybe this 5, in my judgment should be a 4, because I'm making a group judgment. So sometimes I will do stuff like that. Though more and more, I'm just using these because I've been running out of time. You know, I just can't do everything exactly the way I would like to. So I'm being totally honest with you people. So you understand, you know, that your group manager will have their own style and they'll do what they do. Okay, so that's it. I'm actually going to save this. And now, how do we find out what our prediction is? We now know we predicted photosite B, and I'm going to make that, there were 2 5s, 1 4. I'm going to make that a 4.5. I feel comfortable doing that. I don't do simple averages, but you know, if I made that a 5, it won't change anything. And here there was 1 5. Everything else was below. Do I feel it was wagerable? See, now I have to choose, am I saying in the group sense that, yeah, I think it was wagerable, but it's going to be lower than this, so I'm going to still get this as the prediction, or do I make it a 3? Evelyn is a good enough viewer. You see, and also that comes into account. I have to look at the person's history. So I'm going to make it a 3.5. But the group prediction then will end off as a 4.5. The way you can make a pass out of it, if they were real close, I could make this a 4.5, and that would be a pass. And sometimes if they're close, I will up one or lower the other ones to make them a pass. But in this case, I'm going to leave it here. So this is webinar. And now the comments I put in, and you'll be able to put in your own personal comments, which will get to be saved, so you can go back and look at how you progress and what you learn, and stuff like that. And the same thing at the feedback session. You'll be able to put in comments. So this is a webinar. We had 3 photosite B predictions at CR greater or equal to a 4 versus 1 at greater equal 4 for photosite A. Now at judging time, I really, remember it's individual, and I would really like you, a lot of the words you use about the judging, put some of those in here, because it'll remind you, and then also the judge, which may often be you, sometimes people use independent judges, but it'll remind you about what things struck you at the time, and if you get a hit or miss later when you go back, that might help you to improve. The whole idea of everything we're doing here is to get better and better over the long term. Better and better and better. Okay. Now, so that's it. That's all you have to do here. You know, yes, you need to pay attention to the judging, but filling it out once you're given the confidence rankings is simple. You put in comments, and now I hit Submit CR, so that's what I'm going to do now. And the personal prediction is no. So we wrote here, the event is, here, let me make this bigger so you can see it all. So this is what comes out finally. It might be better to make it bigger this way. So this, of course, verifies that everything went to the computer okay. And you've got a repeat of what you put in before, the words and numbers. It gives you your personal prediction based on, in this case, the fact that photosite B was randomly associated with no. Up to this point, the computer was the one that knew. And it says some of those words here. It reminds you that we're using the nominal model for grouping, which is 3.5. We're still using up and down here, over, under, or yes or no. Okay, so that's okay. And I remind you that prediction would be a pass if both of the confidence rankings are less than 3.5. So the highest has to be greater than 3. No. So that's the way you get a pass if both are less than 3.5, or if they're both the same and greater than 3.5. And then down here, I repeat the event, just so you know, and the tasking ID. And these two numbers are really to uniquely specify everything that everybody did. If there are multiple viewers, I can get to this specific task through there. Okay, we did it. It's a B. Let me go back to here. It's a no, just so you see exactly what I do for all of these. So I now know the prediction is a no. Now, let me say, if the prediction were a yes, where it's going to close over 2,400, I could have wagered with a put. But the fact that the prediction is a no, I don't know anything except that it's according to the prediction that it's going to be above 2,400, but it's now at 2,433, so I don't see any easy prediction. Though it's interesting, what just flashed now is an interesting possibility I hadn't thought of before, which is if I had made this 2 months, and if this turned out to be a no like this, next week I could ask, will it be over 2,400 or something like that? I might be able to work out pairs of predictions that might be guaranteed to give me a wagerable one. Anyway, I'm sorry I did that. I tend to give you ideas that come to me whether or not I've thought them all out. But that was an if. You know, I certainly could pair predictions a week apart that have something to do with the prediction 2 months apart or something like that. Okay, let's go back now. But anyway, so now this sheet is now filled out for waiting until July 28th to be filled in. And so I have 1 up here and 3 down here that are still open. Now let's go back to here. I just have 2 more I'll show, and then we'll end this, and certainly have any questions if you have any, or comments. You've seen this before, and the concept goes with the universe of collective consciousness so clearly, because all the 5s that we got, okay, when you get up to a level of a 5, 6, or 7, to a lesser extent, I believe, with the 4, when a legitimate 5 is out there where I can say, oh my gosh, this really has to match one picture or the other. Notice you did precognition, period, because you hadn't yet seen, and it wasn't even chosen yet, the pictures that you saw. Only the computer, which chose it after your transcript. So Evelyn did precognition with hers. She got good enough stuff to be a 5. And on the other side, I think we had 2 5s and a 4. So precognition, this connection was clearly there. Now, hopefully with the feedback picture, but if sometimes it's the AJing, don't do that. And that's where this concept, which actually John mentioned, which is called the nag, you sometimes might be getting stuff from the judging. 5-second rule, don't want to talk about that. You don't want to even think about that. You don't want to even know that that's around. All that matters is you connect up with the feedback. Clearly that was done here, and that is this entanglement. And what did you use? You used your here and now conscious awareness to make that connection. You set intention, attention, and expectation. Now, did you send it strong enough? I don't know. But each time you do this, because this communication channel is opening, because that's your intention to get better and better at this, that'll happen. But that's what you're doing. And you're paying attention to your subconscious mind as this whole ARV process is going on, both during the remote viewing, yes, the judging, but feedback session and the remote viewing session in particular, you're really paying attention, and then setting this expectation, getting so you feel comfortable that, yep, you know you can do this, and you're going to expect to do it more and more on this one, knowing you're not yet 100%, sure, but you're going to be expecting it, get in that mindset place. And then this was just sort of a little more long-term, because everything that you're doing here and learning here, and I showed you an example with health, you are going to see your present life experiences influenced by things which happen in your own future. It just seems to happen naturally to most people. When you stay with this long enough, you begin to notice choices that you make. You just get a sense that this one's right versus that right, more than you did before. You know, a classic technique is, okay, let me just get a feeling for how choice A works versus choice B. Well, what are you doing? You're doing this process. You're gathering information from the future. So just be open to that happening. And when you have a sense that that happens, follow up with it. You know, when the choice actualizes, give yourself credit for it. And if it wasn't a hit, that's okay. Try to learn something from it. Go back and see how that feeling felt. Lynn Buchanan appropriately calls that remote influencing. But it's between yourself. You're getting information from your own future. I mean, what we're talking about here is a paradigm shift of how to view the universe. And then I think I'm getting into a mode where I'm always ending these this way. All of this is intended to make all of you and me, all of us, healthier, wealthier, and hopefully wiser. So thank you for joining me.
Marty?
Yep.
I noticed on that list there that there's a few we haven't gotten feedback on yet. Are you going to get caught up on that now that the conference is over?
Always. I almost did this. In other words, it turned out one just happened right before the conference, and there's actually another one that happened during the conference. So I now have two that I can do, and my next weekly will be focus on feedback, and I start with the feedback session for that coordinate. So I ask everybody who did it to bring it in. And I happen to think those in many ways are the best way to teach this. Since it starts with feedback, and now I get to give a class where I start the class with feedback, I actually really like those classes.
Yeah, well, there's 612, and then there's a couple later in
right
612, and then 22, 23. Anyway, yeah, I'd love to get the feedback on those.
Oh, yeah, you will. And also people who have not done those, I really encourage those to come as well, because the teaching of it where feedback is where all of this begins is so important. And by teaching it that way, they get to see it. They get to see an actual feedback session against the target. So it's just very valuable. So the answer is yes, and I'll do that next week and probably the week after, because I have two now I haven't caught up with yet.
Well, I know one of the things, the painful lessons I have learned in the last month is the judging is the all-important thing, because I had a couple of misses where there was enough on my transcript that I should have had a hit, but I interpreted it wrong. So
I really want you to repeat that with the people who are here, because that's so important. And the feedback session is when you really learn that, and you do that as part of your feedback session, because it helps you again focus on the target. It won't work for the past, but it helped you with all your future ones.
Yes. So
Okay.
yeah, the judging is the important thing, and I after hearing 2 conferences, that a whole lot of things dawned on me, but that was definitely one of them.
Okay, good. Thank you for that comment. Oh, and thank you for the comments in the chat box. And as you probably picked up, you know I love to do this, and I actually thank you all for coming. If you didn't come, I couldn't do this. And I usually learn something from these as well as I'm working with you all. Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, I think we can end this. So, oh, my screen got really mixed up here. So let me see if I can find the right thing to click here. To close it, I might have to close this to find it. No, I can't find my judgment. Yeah, we're done now. Keep precogging, and one way or another I will figure out how to close this. Close window. Oh, I just want to make sure I get the recording. There it is. Okay, I have to close it this way. Okay, thank you all, and do keep precogging, and I hope to see you in future classes as well. Bye now.